Imagine building a $100 million empire by eating raw liver on camera, only to watch it crumble because of one leaked email. This is the wild story of how Brian Johnson became the Liver King, convinced millions to follow his ancestral lifestyle, and then got exposed by the very thing he thought would stay hidden forever. Picture this: November 28th, 2022. A YouTuber named Derek hits publish on a video that would detonate like a bomb across the internet. Within hours, the Liver King's carefully constructed world begins to crack. Within days, it's in ruins. And it all came down to something as simple as an email that revealed the massive lie behind one of the most profitable fitness empires of our generation, the undersized kid who became a king. But let's rewind to where this story really begins. San Antonio, Texas, in the 1980s. Brian Johnson wasn't always the 200-pound, muscle-bound Viking you've seen ripping into raw organs on your TikTok feed. He was a scrawny, undersized kid dealing with something no child should have to face: constant, relentless bullying. Brian's father died when he was just a baby, leaving him and his brother to be raised by their mother. Middle school was what Brian would later describe as living hell. He was small, awkward, looked different from other kids, and had a speech impediment that crushed his confidence. Every single day, he got beaten up, kicked, punched, pummeled. His words, not mine. For years, this was his reality. Then, one day, Brian found a weight set belonging to one of his mother's boyfriends. That discovery changed everything. He started lifting, started getting stronger, and for the first time in his life, he felt like he had control. As his body transformed, so did the way people treated him. The bullied kid was becoming someone nobody wanted to mess with anymore. A classmate even told him he looked like Marky Mark, the rapper turned actor who was everywhere in the 90s. That comparison stuck with Brian. It became part of his identity. But here's where things get interesting. That childhood trauma, that desperate need to never be weak again, it would eventually become both the foundation of his empire and the reason for its spectacular collapse. From dental offices to raw liver. Fast forward to 2004. Brian's now in his mid-20s, snowboarding at a resort when he sees her, Barbara, who would become known as the Liver Queen. According to Brian, it was love at first sight. He pursued her aggressively, and despite her initial resistance, he wore her down. Within 6 or 7 weeks, they were engaged. 2 months after that, married. It sounds insane, but it worked. They've been together for over 20 years now. Barbara wasn't just Brian's wife. She was his business partner and, in many ways, his ticket to wealth. She was a successful dentist, specializing in full-mouth restorations, the kind of procedures that cost patients $80,000 to $90,000. In 2006, they pooled together $500,000 and opened their own practice called Dentique Dentistry. This wasn't just any dental office. It was a vertically integrated operation with its own lab and imaging center. And it exploded. The first year, they did $400,000 in revenue. By year 3, $5.2 million annually. Brian and Barbara were rich, comfortable, and completely anonymous. But something was missing for Brian. He still had that drive, that need to prove himself. Around 2015, their kids started having behavioral issues. Like any concerned parents, they tried everything: diet changes, elimination protocols, working with specialists. Eventually, they landed on something that seemed to work: cutting out processed foods and eating nose to tail, including organ meats like liver. Brian claims their kids transformed in just 2 weeks. Whether that's medically accurate or not is debatable, but it gave Brian an idea. If organ meats could supposedly transform his kids, why not package and sell them? In 2016, he launched Ancestral supplements, freeze-dried beef organs in capsule form, sourced from grass-fed cattle in New Zealand and Australia. The business did okay, making modest money, but Brian was still anonymous. He was rich, sure, but unknown. And for someone who'd spent his childhood being invisible, being ignored, that anonymity was starting to feel like its own kind of prison. The birth of a character. Then came 2021, and everything changed. Brian Johnson decided to become the Liver King. This wasn't an accident. This was calculated, strategic, and brilliant from a marketing perspective. He didn't just start posting videos, he created an entire persona. Shirtless, heavily muscled, leather-skinned, from constant sun exposure, sporting a wild beard, and most importantly, eating shocking amounts of raw animal organs on camera. Raw liver, raw testicles, bone marrow, blood, all consumed with an intensity that made people stop scrolling. He wasn't just selling supplements anymore. He was selling a philosophy, a return to what he called ancestral living. He created 9 ancestral tenets: sleep, eat, move, shield, connect, cold, sun, fight, and bond. The premise was simple but seductive. Modern life has made men weak, but you can reclaim your primal strength by living like your ancestors. The growth was explosive. Within 7 months, he hit 1 million followers on Instagram. He added another 1.5 million on TikTok. Within a year, he had 5.5 million followers across all platforms. His videos were getting hundreds of millions of views. He appeared on major podcasts, got featured in GQ and Vice, showed up at UFC events where actual celebrities wanted pictures with him. And the money? It started rolling in like a tidal wave. Ancestral supplements went from a modest side business to a juggernaut. His website was getting 175,000 unique visitors every month, with an average order value of $80. On Amazon alone, he was pulling in an estimated $24 million annually. He partnered with other supplement companies, Heart and Soil with Paul Saladino, The Fittest, Medicine Man, each generating millions more. Altogether, his supplement empire was generating roughly $100 million per year. $100 million. From selling freeze-dried animal organs and preaching about eating like a caveman. Brian claimed his net worth was $310 million. Independent analysts put it closer to 10 to 12 million in liquid assets. But even if that's true, he was making money hand over fist. Not bad for a guy who started out getting beaten up every day in middle school. The elephant in the room. But there was one massive problem. One question that kept coming up, getting louder and louder. Was the Liver King natural? Look, even people with zero knowledge of fitness could tell something was off. Nobody gets that big, that lean, that vascular, and that muscular just from eating liver and doing workouts. His physique wasn't just impressive, it was superhuman. His shoulders were massive, his traps looked like mountains. His abs were so defined you could see them from space, and he had that telltale HGH gut that comes from long-term growth hormone use. Fitness experts, bodybuilders, and YouTubers started calling him out. Joe Rogan expressed skepticism on his podcast. Experts would look at his physique and shake their heads. And every single time someone asked him directly if he was on steroids, Brian had the same answer. I don't touch the stuff. I've never done the stuff. I'm not going to do the stuff. He didn't just deny it, he denied it emphatically, repeatedly, on the biggest platforms in the world. He even made videos mocking people who accused him, acting offended that anyone would question his natural gains. His entire brand was built on the premise that you could look like him if you just followed his 9 ancestral tenets and bought his supplements. Millions of people believed him. They spent thousands of dollars on his products, thinking that if they just ate enough desiccated liver and did enough kettlebell swings, they could achieve that same physique. Some even started eating raw liver themselves, risking foodborne illness, all because the Liver King told them it was the way. The email that changed everything. Here's where our story reaches its climax. Behind the scenes, Brian had been working with coaches and doctors to optimize his, shall we say, pharmaceutical protocol. He'd been reaching out to people for advice on his steroid cycle, asking questions, sending his blood work, trying to dial in the perfect combination of performance-enhancing drugs. One of those emails ended up in the hands of Derek, a fitness YouTuber who runs a channel called More Plates, More Dates. Derek is known for his deep dives into steroids, hormone optimization, and calling out fake natties in the fitness industry. He'd been suspicious of the Liver King for a while, and then he got the smoking gun. Actual emails from Brian Johnson detailing his exact steroid cycle. On November 28, 2022, Derek uploaded a video titled "The Liver King Lie." In it, he laid out everything. The leaked emails showed that Brian was spending approximately $11,000 per month on performance-enhancing drugs. Not 1,100, 11,000, every single month. His protocol was absolutely insane. 4 vials per week of Omnitrope, pharmaceutical-grade human growth hormone, totaling about 7 to 10 international units per day. That's more than some professional bodybuilders use. He was on testosterone, cypionate, nandrolone, DECA, Winstrol, IGF-1LR3, CJC with ipamorelin, and ibutamorin, MK677. In his email, he mentioned he'd been on some of these compounds for over a year, and he was asking his coach for advice because his IGF-1 levels weren't as high as he wanted them, even though he was already injecting massive amounts. The video spread like wildfire. Within hours, it had hundreds of thousands of views. Within days, millions. The mainstream media picked it up. Suddenly, the Liver King wasn't just a controversy in the fitness community, he was a national scandal. The apology nobody bought. At first, Brian and his wife Barbara wanted to deny everything. Just claim the emails were fake, photoshopped, not real. But there was too much evidence. The emails were clearly legitimate, and they knew it. 3 days later, on December 1st, 2022, Brian posted an apology video to his YouTube channel, and it was bizarre. He titled it, "Liver King Confession, I Lied." He started by saying he was embarrassed and ashamed because he lied and misled people. Okay, good start. But then the video went completely off the rails. He spent most of it justifying himself, talking about how he did it all for a good cause, how he was trying to spread an important message about health, how he's part of the 85% of people who suffer from self-esteem issues. He admitted he'd been taking around 120 milligrams of testosterone per week. Though experts pointed out that was probably underselling it given what the email showed, he called it being monitored by a trained hormone clinician, as if that made lying to millions of people okay. But here's the kicker. Throughout the entire apology, he basically said, "Yeah, I lied, but my message is still important. I still believe in ancestral living. I was just doing what I thought I had to do to reach more people." He even said he was already rich before social media, and he's still rich after, as if that made any of this better. The internet wasn't buying it. Comments tore him apart. Even people who'd been fans felt betrayed. This wasn't just about steroids. Plenty of fitness influencers are open about their use. This was about deception. He'd built a $100 million business, selling the idea that his physique was achievable naturally if you just bought his products and followed his lifestyle. He'd looked people in the eye on podcasts and lied repeatedly. The aftermath. Within weeks, a class action lawsuit was filed against him for $25 million, accusing him of fraud and deceptive marketing. Customers who'd bought his supplements felt scammed. They'd spent their money believing his products would help them achieve his physique, not realizing that no amount of desiccated liver was going to replicate 10 international units of pharmaceutical growth hormone per day. His follower count took a hit. Comments on his videos became overwhelmingly negative. The trust was shattered. The Liver King brand, which had been worth a fortune, was suddenly toxic. Interestingly, though, the lawsuit was eventually dropped. The legal reasons aren't entirely clear, but it's likely because supplement companies technically don't promise specific results, and proving that customers were directly harmed is difficult. As for Brian, he initially claimed he was going off steroids completely. He posted updates showing his natural transformation, claiming he looked even better without the drugs. Bodybuilders and fitness experts called bullshit on that too, pointing out that you can't maintain that kind of size after coming off massive amounts of growth hormone and steroids. The Liver King still posts on social media. His supplement business still exists. Ancestral Supplements is still selling products and apparently still making millions, though nowhere near the $100 million peak. Some followers stuck with him, either because they still believed in the message or because they just didn't care about the lying. In May 2025, Netflix released a documentary called Untold: The Liver King, giving him another platform to tell his story, mixing redemption arc with brutal honesty about the scandal. The million-dollar lesson. So what's the real story here? It's not just about steroids. It's about a deeply insecure kid who got bullied, who discovered that being physically imposing gave him power, and who built an empire on that same insecurity, selling the promise of transformation to millions of other people who felt weak. But he took it too far. The lie became too big. And in the age of the internet, where screenshots are forever and emails can always leak, the truth was always going to come out. One email. That's all it took. One email to a coach asking for advice on steroids ended up exposing one of the biggest frauds in fitness influencer history and cost Brian Johnson his reputation, possibly tens of millions in future earnings, and the trust of millions of followers. The Liver King built an empire on raw liver and raw ambition. But he lost it all because of one thing he forgot. In the digital age, nothing stays secret forever. And when you build your brand on a lie, eventually, that lie will eat you alive. No pun intended. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing and let us know your thoughts in the comments as well.